Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 10 of the Galatians 6:2 podcast, where compassion meets conversation. Let me talk to you about our guests. Our guest served in the United States Navy from 2013 to 2018 as a hospital corpsman. During that time, our guest trained with the Fleet Medical Training Battalion, also known as FMTB, which allowed the guest to provide medical support to Marine bases, and as an aerospace medical technician, which allowed to provide medical support to military flight crews. Our guest has several years of experience in the mental health field as a substance abuse counselor intern, mental health practitioner, and school counselor. Our guest is a board certified mental health coach and a certified financial coach. Our guest holds a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and a Master's of Science in Psychology with a concentration in substance use. Well, I am your host, Joanne Javelle.
And I'm your guest, Crystal Elms. The deep one. What do you do in the waiting when God does not give you an answer? There was this sermon I heard a while back, and it has kind of been my blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
You do the last thing God told you to do.
My answer is also taken from a sermon, but this was something that I heard in New York. I can't even remember what church I heard, and there was a couple of steps that the pastor said, and so a couple of things that I do remember.
Mm-hmm.
Sit with a grateful heart. Do not let your season of waiting make you feel that all of a sudden God never answers prayers.
Right.
Remember the things that He has brought you to and remain in gratitude. So, Crystal, we are going to get into a heavy topic today, and we are going to discuss mental health as it relates to the military. Easy question first, of course. Can you share some of your military background? Where did you serve? What was your role?
So I had a 7-year contract. I did 5 years on active duty and then 2 years individual ready reserves, which is basically you're not required to go in, but they can call you back in at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And so my rate was as a hospital corpsman, basically jack of all trades in the medical field.
Okay.
And so I was trained in some paramedic, I was trained in some nursing, I was trained in lab work, I was trained in medical reporting, billing, stuff like that. So a little bit of everything.
You served, you did all of that, and now it's time to transition. What was the transition like for you from military to civilian life, and what do you think was the biggest challenge?
So I would say like the first few weeks weren't terrible because I had a lot of leave saved up. And so when I served my last day and I handed in that ID card, I got my DD 214. I actually had, I think it was like 2-3 weeks of leave saved up that they allowed me to use to where I was still receiving military pay and benefits. Just that adjustment to civilian life.
I'm sure.
And I realized several years, having been out several years at this point, that there are some ways in which I will never fully assimilate to civilian life because my brain has kind of forever been altered based on
fascinated.
my military experience.
What would you never, what's one thing that you think your brain is not assimilating?
So this is something you don't know, but I do this every time we go out to eat. When I go in, I need to know where all the exits are.
Okay.
And I need to face the door. And if I'm not facing the door, I'm very anxious.
Okay.
It's like if I'm going in with a group and I'm like the last one to sit or something, I'm very anxious not facing the door. And it's hard for me to not look at the door every time I hear a sound to see who's coming in. I'm looking at their face. I'm looking at just different stuff, processing. I also run scenarios in my head.
Like what?
Like if X were to happen, then I need to do Y.
So during your time in service, what was your experience with mental health, either personally or with others you served with?
Both personally and with other people. Like I said, mental health was a very taboo topic. And so as much as you possibly could, you sucked it up. We had one of the places that I was stationed, we had a very supportive chaplain.
Mhm.
I utilized him and I recommended him to other people.
That's
And
great
that's
to
how
know.
I dealt with a lot of my mental health issues that I felt like I couldn't disclose.
Okay, so as a vet, how do you care for your mental health now?
Um, it's been a process, and one of the biggest factors for me has been getting to know who I am now,
Hmm.
this version of myself. I think that I know that a lot of the roles that I've filled over time have required me to put others before self.
Hmm.
And I've just been going through this ongoing process of understanding that I have to take care of myself first in order to be able to show up for others.
Right. Is it easier for you to be friends with former vets, or would you say civilians?
Um, I mean, at this point, most of my friends are civilians,
Hmm.
but that's just because I've moved around a lot since leaving the military. But I do have veteran friends either that I've served with that I'm still in contact with or I've met since then. I think in some ways it is easier to connect with them just because generally there's a lot of similarities
Yeah.
in what we went through.
Hmm. Of
And
course.
so it's just easier to connect. It's easier. There's a sort of like a sense of humor that you get
Yeah.
from that, just different things like that. You don't feel like you have to hold those parts back as much.
How would you say your faith has evolved from being an active serviceman to now?
While serving, I was definitely lukewarm. Coming out of the military over time, I've kind of evolved in my faith to where I am today.
So let me ask you, since you did speak about connecting with your local church, how can faith communities be better to active servicemen, vets? How can they be better to support the needs?
Well, for sure, understanding some of these statistics,
Yeah.
connecting with a veteran who is strong in their faith, and just sitting and having conversations to understand, or even just like congregation veterans to really understand what's going on in the veteran community and asking them, what
Mhm.
support do you need?
So let me ask you, what would you say to an active service member? We have so many people who watch this podcast. I'm sure a lot of vets are going to see this, a lot of active service and their families. What would you say to the families, to active, to vets that might be struggling with mental health concerns right now?
Um, I would say I know that it's hard, especially transitioning from the military and trying to figure out what is life at this point. But keep in mind that you matter. Keep in mind that you are important. Keep in mind that you are valuable. And so as you process through, um, just make sure you remember those things
Yeah.
as you deal with life. And I know it's especially hard too for family members, especially family members who knew service members before the military.
Yeah.
And then after, they're not
They're
going to
not
be
the
the same
same.
person.
Yeah.
They're never going to be the same person that they were before.
Would you tell them to have some grace?
Yeah.
Should they all do therapy?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say be safe because, unfortunately, especially combat veterans, they can be very aggressive. So I would say to family members and friends, be safe. Um, but give them grace.
Amen. Thank you so much for
Bye,
watching.
guys.
Bye.